So start up the recording. And Alex, you can take it away.
Great. Oh, I hear some. There we go. That's good. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the session today, and to our guests, presenters, and to the participants. If you're here to listen to a presentation on COIL during COVID, then you're in the right place. And I'm very, very excited to facilitate this presentation for Mary and Amy. Mary Meinecke is an instructor of modern languages at Universidad de Monterrey, and Amy McHugh is an instructor of communication studies at SUNY Oswego, and is in Australia, if I am not mistaken. So let me read to you a little bit about who they are and what they've been doing. Mary has over 20 years of experience in teaching English as a second and foreign language. Mary has a master's in bilingual education from Nova University and a master's in higher education from the Universidad Montana. She has taught a wide range of courses, from remedial English to content courses in English. And in addition, she's helped to train bilingual teachers for over 10 years. She's worked at the that must be Universidad in the Department of Education, and for the region, for alternative certification program. And currently Mary teaches at the, as I said earlier, Universidad de Monterrey in the Modern Languages Department. Now, Amy McHugh is the academic facilitator and lecturer for the National Center for Cultural Competence at the University of Sydney. And she's an adjunct instructor, oh, there's the connection, for communication studies at the department, the communication study department at SUNY Oswego. She creates and facilitates workshops and courses in intercultural communication and cultural competence. She is working towards her PhD in curriculum instruction and the science of learning through the University at Buffalo. She earned her BA in communication studies from Marist College, as well as her master's degree in international communications from Marquette University in Sydney. She has 10 years of teaching experience and conducting research in the area of collaborative online international learning and its effects on cultural competence, and is interested in how technology and motivation play a role in our ongoing journey towards cultural competence. I am very pleased to welcome you both and to hear what is going on with COIL during COVID.
Well, thank you so much, Alexandra and Aaron, for having us. I just briefly want to start by acknowledging that I am on Darug country in Australia, on Aboriginal land that has never been ceded. And we're in NAIDOC week now, which is a week of celebration of the strength and resilience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here in Australia. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge that and acknowledge and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Yeah, so Mary and I just wanted to come and have a quick chat about our experience with COIL during COVID. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me 1 minute. Are we all right? Can we see the screen? Okay, yes. Excellent. Thank you. So we thought that we might just come in and tell you a little bit about our experience in the past, over the past semester. So today we're going to talk to you a little bit about why we decided to do a COIL collaboration during COVID, how we organized our collaboration, sort of the project timeline and the organization of it, talk about the technology that we decided to use and the activities that we did with our students or had our students do together. And then we're going to end with some student thoughts, because we think it's really important to hear actually how the students experience this, and especially in this time that we're in a pandemic situation. So that first image I just thought really evokes the feeling and actuality of everyone's life in COVID at the moment. So I will move along to the next one. And Mary will tell you a little bit about it.
Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today. Here up on the screen, if you see, basically what's been happening, we have all these trends, all these ideas that have been in place since BC. BC is before coronavirus, and this coronavirus has just accelerated, or AD, after disease, has just accelerated the models, the trends, the technologies we're using today. And because of the current situation, many more professors are using this COIL model. Here at the UDEM, we doubled our COIL programs from spring 2020 to fall 2020. We have a doubling or even more of professors who are using this model. And because of the travel restrictions, well, there's also a definite increase from students of, well, we can't go study abroad, but let's go and meet other cultures. Let's complete a collaborative project. Let's practice our intercultural communication skills. And let's just engage with other countries, other regions, other backgrounds.
Thank you. So we thought we'd just briefly tell you our sort of experience with this. Mary and I actually did meet in the COIL Academy. I had almost forgotten that we had done that, Mary. But that was back in March of this year, which is really when things started to sort of shut down for many places around the world. But we partnered through filling out some different forms and getting paired up, and then we had that opportunity during the academy. I believe it was over a 6-week period to really work on a framework, come together and put some shared learning outcomes together. So sort of that basic framework for what our collaboration would be, with the idea that we would come together and have a collaborative experience for our students during this particular semester, the North American fall semester. So we had that looking for a partner, we had the brainstorming, then we just set a number of meetings throughout the year. So we would get together at the times that suited us, and we would meet and try out different applications, different software apps that we thought might be helpful, might be useful in working with our students. Then the semester started, we had it all ready to go, and we had a live kickoff session with our students. So I teach an asynchronous online course, which means my students aren't really required to be online at a particular time, but most of them came, which was great. So we had them come, and we talked a little bit about what we were going to do, why we were doing it, and then we had them go into their breakout rooms with their teams and start the process. So it was a really great way to have them meet each other and sort of break that weirdness that they sometimes can feel when they're doing these collaborations. And then we'll talk a little bit more about challenges, rewards, and then the wrap up and reflections. But we've essentially, had our students engage with each other and then tell us what have been the challenges and the rewards that you've received from this, and how has it benefited you. And we'll tell you a little bit about what they've actually said in just a few minutes. Sorry, Mary, I moved this.
No problem, no problem. Here are our shared learning outcomes. These are what Amy and I worked together to develop for this program, such as the first one of thoughtful, intellectual, and civil discussions with their classmates and with their teachers at home and abroad. Most importantly, number 2, to learn to see a topic from a different point of view, which is what all of us want to be able to develop and understand how different people through their eyes see topics. And lastly, our final project was the proposal for the United Nations Sustainable Goals, and these were done in their teams.
So we went ahead and utilized the Google Suite, actually. I'm using Google Slides right now as well, and it's been really quite a great application for us to use with our students. We spent some time, put together this website for the students. It had the calendar of what they needed to do, the syllabus of the requirements that we asked them to do, and we just felt it was easy for them to use, easy for everyone to get into. We had trialed a couple of others, but it required students to register and log in and have a couple of other steps. So we thought, this is easy. Everyone could just click the link and it's right there. They don't have to do any extra work to get there, because we know if the barriers if the more barriers you put in place, the more challenging it is and the less students will be inclined to participate. So we decided that it was a good idea to use something like this. And we've provided the link here for anyone that's interested and wants to go and take a look. We're happy for you to poke around and just see what we've done. And we also utilize the Google Drive. So on our Google team site, we had links for all the different teams, and that took them to a Google Drive where they would, as you can see in the photo here, they've saved all of their different activities that we've asked them to do, the different assignments. So we've scaffolded as we've gone through the semester. And I'll just make a note that, you know, COIL in general is something that shouldn't really be added. It should really be incorporated into a course that you're teaching. So it really has to kind of be ingrained in what you're doing and not sort of added on to all the things that you already have them doing. I find it just makes it, yeah, that much more challenging and really not as effective if you just sort of paste it on top.
That's a definite really good point, because I think we all forget that, especially me sometimes. And luckily, Amy was always there to remind me. If you see up there, they're the Google folders, the folders that the students shared, which was what an absolute great idea for the students to be able to upload and share everything with their teams there.
Yep. Great. So Mary's going to tell you about one of our first activities that we had them do.
Yes, here's one that Amy and I decided on. Since music is such a common taste that we all have, something that unifies us, we decided as the icebreaker to have each team create their playlist. Each team to choose their 10 songs, English, Spanish, French, German, different countries, and they created their playlist, and they also answered some reflection questions after they created their playlist.
Yeah, so we asked them these particular questions, you know, what did you learn, what was easy, what was difficult, and we had them save that in their Google folder. And just some of the thoughts that they came back with were, after listening to everyone's song choices, I feel like I know just a little bit more about everyone's personality. So we thought that was a great way to get them to start to unravel that and yeah, break down those sort of awkward barriers that they might be feeling. Another student says, I was very surprised to see that all of my other group members also chose English songs and not songs that were in Spanish. I assume this is one of my students. I think that this shows how the media has a love for globalization to affect us all around the world. So I was really excited to see them pulling in aspects from my course that they were learning when they were reflecting on this experience. Another student said, music unites people and creates a safe and enjoyable environment where all kinds of personalities are welcome. And this activity was helpful to enrich cross-cultural communication. So it was really great to see the students, even in the beginning, starting to recognize how they might connect. You know, this is something that could bring them together. And, you know, in having some face-to-face meetings with students afterwards, it was really great to hear them talking about, yeah, we would sit and share memes, or we'd talk about the movies that we like, or all the different things. So it really gave them that opening to start to discuss themselves, which made it easier for them to have those group collaborative times then after.
And here are the activities that we chose that Amy and I created for their groups. The first one was the music, the playlist. The second activity we had was they shared a meal of their favorite meal or favorite food, which they uploaded to Google Drive, and we saw some really interesting comments and pictures of meals. The next one they did was submit a proposal. The final project or the final product that the groups worked on was the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are, I think, 18 goals that the United Nations created for 2030 to make this world a more sustainable place. And finally, they presented their ideas. They uploaded them to the Google Drive, and they presented their ideas. Well, we were going to have a final live session, but due to some scheduling conflicts, and it was election night, we postponed that final live session.
Yeah. And I will just note that when they had to come up with the development goal that they wanted to use, that was another thing they had to do as a group, was come to a consensus. I've done things in the past where you sort of give them the topic and then they go from there, but we thought, or they had to maybe, you know, one group choose one topic, but we thought it might be better as a group to let them just, you know, and we didn't mind that a couple of groups maybe had the same topic. It really didn't make a difference because they all came up with very different, very interesting projects in the end. But it was another way to get them to come to a consensus. And I might just mention, we didn't mention earlier, as part of our live kickoff session, we had students come together and sign a contract. So they had to go through, agree to the different aspects of the contract. They could make changes where they wanted to make changes. It was totally up to their team. But we asked them all to sign a contract, which essentially just held them all accountable to each other. So we thought that was a really good way to start that team building and consensus building. So we just have a couple of other quick comments to share on their final project and then on the whole course as a whole. So students talked about Oswego and UDEM having similar difficulties and issues in the community. So finding that there are lots of similarities. I really love this one. The student said, we have different forms of thinking and sometimes we do not agree with our partners, but everything can be done talking through things. I thought that's such a profound, simply profound statement that can really be utilized anytime, but especially in this time that we're having, where we really need to come together, and even if we don't agree, have discussions, civil, calm discussions. And another student said, I learned that teamwork helps people arrive at better ideas. So just that idea that diversity really can bring lots of different and great ideas to the table.
It's amazing the beautiful ideas our students came up with. I was really surprised when reading their reflections and their comments. It was a really wonderful surprise to read their comments.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to go through some of these, Mary, or did
whatever you prefer?
This
you go ahead.
Yeah, you want me to? Okay. Just looking through some of the final, so Mary has her students do a final reflection, and I'm having my students do that as well. It hasn't been submitted yet, but Mary's has. So one of her students had this first comment, and he said, I learned that the issues that we face here are not specifically unique to our area, and that by experiencing the same thing from two different perspectives, we were able to put our heads together and come up with numerous solutions. So again, really speaking to that idea that diversity really can bring really great solutions. And the students came up with some really amazing ideas. He said, I also learned that all of us students who participated in this activity have very busy, active lives during this ongoing pandemic, but still found the will to have meetings every week despite being in different time zones. And I'm glad to have worked in this way with everyone. So just seeing the resilience from the students as well, that they were able to continue to push through. I had less complaining this semester than I normally do from students in these particular types of collaborations. I'm not sure, Mary's nodding her head yes, so maybe the same for you, Mary, but I feel like the students really came together and kind of found solidarity or something, yeah, in their connection with one another, and sort of helped each other through this crisis situation. And one of my students, just in another reflection that they had, said, I learned that our communities are very different, but that there are some similar struggles. And I also learned that my teammates and I were not as different as I originally thought. So, you know, again, helping them to find those connector points. And finally,
I don't remember. Do you want to read this? Go ahead.
This is actually the final thought, Mary, from your student. My apologies.
Here it comes from. No, that's okay. It's Wednesday. One of my students, he wrote this wonderful final thought and their final reflections. Their final reflections are, I see the question is, they're not posted publicly. No, their final reflections are their own private reflections they have. This is what student Fernando wrote. He said, I quickly got accustomed to working with such a great team and will remember the laughs and all of the great conversations we had. I really think this kind of experience makes you grow as a person. You get to see the differences in personalities and cultures, and we should learn to embrace everyone. I learned that if we as a community unite, we can create wonderful solutions full of creativity. Their final projects, the United Nations Sustainable Goals, they had to describe how they would apply them both in Oswego and in Monterrey. So they had to see how the final projects would apply and could be carried out in each country.
Yeah, and we just sort of thought that these final thoughts from the students really sort of bring our idea of this COIL during COVID to really sums it up quite well. Working as a team and getting through this trying time, it really makes you grow. It helps you think differently. And through the pandemic, the teams had to come together to complete their work and support one another, as you sort of noticed in some of those other comments. In times of crisis, it really helps people to come together, and we've seen that in lots of different places, and to learn from one another and to collaborate on ideas which could help to improve our world. So as we sit waiting for a vaccine to help us open the world up again and to save people's lives, these are the kinds of students, and this is the kind of collaboration that we're hoping is happening in the quote unquote real world, so that we can go back to some sort of semblance of reality and normalcy again. So we think that these students have really undertaken this with great resilience and gusto, and we really just appreciated their efforts. And I really appreciated Mary's support through all of the things, and she and I have become very close through this experience as well. So it's great to have someone who's similar minded but different minded, and who's there to support you as you go through this. And I will just quickly note, 73% of our students, we did a bit of a survey, they were very or extremely satisfied with this collaboration. I think that's quite a high number, so we were really, really pleased to see that as well. So together we can share the power of COIL. We recommend it for everyone. The SUNY COIL Center has such great resources, as I'm sure many people here would already know. But if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to, feel free to reach out to either Mary or myself. Please feel free to do so. And thank you so much for coming along.
So thank you so much, Mary and Amy. And I'm wondering if Rick or E have any questions, or Aaron. What a great presentation. Thank you for sharing. It's always so inspiring, I guess, to see students reflect their reflections and on the experiences of this kind of cross-cultural activity that you often see in COIL. E has a question. How can instructors get involved in COIL? That's a great question.
Mary, do you want to?
Sure. My suggestion is, well, first of all, want to open your students' minds and just start looking. I contacted here at the Universidad de Monterrey, we have a special department who helps us find partners. There, I see Alexandra put it in the chat. You can contact your SUNY department and have them help you out. Also, just to get online and use your contacts and see, who is interested. It is November the 11th today. You're still on time. If you want to COIL for January, you can still find someone and organize a project for January. Just start using your contacts and being on the lookout. I will say that sometimes it takes a month to find someone. Sometimes it takes 6 or 8 months. So to be patient and always be out there looking, and let everyone know that you are interested in a COIL for the next semester, and you will find someone.
And please feel free to reach out, because I sometimes have more people than I'm able to connect with. So I sometimes have to say no, unfortunately. So I'm happy to, pass names along and connect people where it's, and I'd say it's appropriate, but I think any connection is really appropriate. I'll just stop sharing this. Really you can COIL any course. It doesn't have to be a cultural course, intercultural, anything. It can be anything. And I've seen some very interesting, very different collaborations. So please don't feel constrained if you don't teach something that's related to culture.
You can also send me an email and I can forward it to down here in Monterey. There are always professors looking for COIL collaborators, COIL partners down here.
Yes, I will give you one example. It was from SUNY Oswego, where I am an adjunct. One of the professors there, he's in human-computer interaction. Damian Schofield, maybe you've heard his name, I'm not sure. But he paired his students with some students. There was another class in Oswego as well, so I think it was his students and some English students, perhaps, like learning literature or playwriting or something, and then some students in Australia who were actually theater students. So let me try and get this right. I think the English students, they all worked together to write a script of some kind. And then the theater students acted it out, but also the HCI students like built a robot or something to act it out. It was very like out there, something I would never think of because I'm not that clever, but it was really, really interesting. And the students loved it. In the end, there was an opportunity for some of the students to actually travel to Australia. So I'm sure that was quite a big draw card, but
incentive.
And they still loved it. It was still really quite different and quite interesting. Yeah. There might actually be some sort of case study on the COIL website on that. I'm not sure. They should have one if they don't.
So I posted a link there to examples of COIL supported courses, and that course might be listed here somewhere. They have a wide variety of examples posted there that have some, the names of the institutions, the partner institution, the country, and then the course name. And some of those course names have either a PowerPoint associated with it or some kind of, downloadable documentation about the course associated with it. Yeah, that's it right there. Yep.
And
so
that COIL site,
the link in the chat.
Yeah, and that COIL site has so many great resources, even just to get you started, to get you thinking, to connect, so even if you're not necessarily in the COIL network, I think most SUNYs at least have access in some way, but it's got so many great resources that it'll really help you start your journey. Absolutely.
E, what campus are you from? That's clear. Oh, so you're from Passaic County Community College. Oh, cool.
Fantastic.
All right, so cool.
I was going to ask you that same question about getting involved, so that folks who may watch the recording are questioning that. So that's great, E, that you asked that question. One of my other questions was just about the logistics of your course, and so you shared the Google hierarchy, the structure of how you created the team spaces and folders and resources. I'm curious if you posted your assignments on the Google site or in the folders, and then also how students interacted. Was it over Zoom? Did they have asynchronous discussion spaces, that sort of thing?
Amy, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So when we had our first meeting with students, we asked them to identify at least 2 ways that they were going to connect with each other. So they had to choose as a team. A lot of them I found used WhatsApp to sort of just text each other ad hoc or whenever they felt like it. And then many of them did use Zoom to actually have their meetings. So that was really up to them. We didn't specify what they had, what was required. There was nothing required. In terms of posting up what was required for the assignments, yes, all of the assignments were listed. If you visit that Google site, you can see there's a calendar of what we want them to do and a syllabus, which gives more detail on what each assignment requires of them. I also each week would post when something was due in my Blackboard site in the announcements. So I would say each week what students had to do. Yep, there's our site. Was there anything else about that question? I think that was it.
The important thing was that Amy and I were on the same page on dates, on activities, on ways that they would turn it in. We met beforehand and decided on the same requirements for everything.
And the
start to have different requirements, then it doesn't work. So we made sure to be very clear on having the same requirements for all the
Mary,
students.
do you want to talk briefly about how we handled the grading? Because E had a question about that.
Thank you.
Yes. How did you handle the grading? Okay, the grading. Well, the grading on the share a meal and the playlist, I think those were pretty easy. They had it complete or incomplete. There was really it wasn't too difficult there. The one that Amy and I sat down together, that we graded together, were the final projects. The final projects were worth the most amount of points or weight or percentage. So thanks to Amy's wonderful suggestion, we sat down together and graded one or two together to make sure that we were on the same page and that all the groups had the same grades, both down here in Monterrey and up there in Oswego.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a different point structure than Mary did, or the way that it's done in Mexico is a little bit different, and that's quite typical when you're working with different countries. So we sort of did a bit of
Equivalency.
I think we did a spreadsheet to do an equivalency of what the scores would be from my point scores to her point scores. So yeah, so whatever we thought it was in New York points, then that would translate to this in the Mexican points scale. So, but I think that point that Mary's making about being on the same page is really, really important. And I've had partners where we have not been on the same page because I was new at it and we didn't really discuss these things ahead of time. So I didn't know to ask these questions and to say, hey, how are we going to handle grading? Or, you know, what are we going to do if one of us gets sick? Or just those things to plan for the unforeseeable, or, you know, the things that generally happen when life happens. So it's good to both have that motivation.
Teamwork.
Yes.
It was a lot of teamwork there.
One team grade for all students. Yes, I'm sorry, there's something noisy going past.
How long did it take you to, you know, sort of plan and prepare for the course in advance of the course? That website looks really rich and cool and interesting. And I'm just wondering, you know, how long it took you to prepare.
I'm sorry, there's some trucks going by, so I apologize for the noise. It took me a couple of hours to get that sort of set up. And Mary and I met a number of times before, and, you know, she and I have really been very good at taking turns at doing different parts of our collaboration without even really, you know, having too much struggle over who's going to do what. It was kind of just like, yep, I'll do this, and it worked out really, really well. But it's having those discussions about how it's going to get done and when it will get done. But it did take, I mean, I didn't count how many meetings we had, Mary. I was going to go have a look at how many pre-meetings we had.
A lot. But we also discussed other things. We got to know each other. We had a really fun time.
That's kind of what I was interested in knowing, you know, how many of those meetings, obviously you met through Zoom, and that's cool that you got to know each other. And were you put together by COIL? Like, how did you get together?
Yeah, well, I think Amy posted an announcement. She had posted an announcement. She was looking for someone, and it came out in the SUNY sheet. My university down here is they're, I guess, a partner with the SUNY program. So one of the international programs department people saw that I was looking for a COIL partner, and she forwarded me the email, and I said, hey, I'll just contact Amy and see what happens. And a wonderful collaboration happened.
Yes, and then we got invited, or we asked to be part of the COIL Academy, and then that gave us the opportunity to have a bit of a structured beginning, I guess, where we had people sort of guiding us on how to create this shared learning outcomes and how to talk about what we would do in our collaboration. So that was really, really nice to have that support. It's not necessary. I've done it without it, but it was quite nice to have sort of something to guide you along the way.
And they give us lots of ideas. I think Hope and someone else, there were a few other people there who ran that, and they gave lots of great ideas, examples, and that's where we developed our ideas, our activities, was from that course.
Yeah, Hope
Window, yeah. And that was like a professional development activity that they offered, that COIL offered for folks who were kind of embarking on this. And you both did it at the same time? You were in the same cohort of people? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. And how long was that activity? Was it a series of presentations with work in between, or was it one session? Like, how long was that?
Nothing was synchronous. Well, there were some synchronous meetings. I didn't make any of them. Mary, I think, was able to go to some of them. It was always middle of the night for me, so I never attended any of those. But we did all right anyways without me coming, I think. And was it over 6 weeks, Mary? I think it was.
I think it was 3 weeks.
Oh,
3
3
weeks.
weeks.
It was over
Oh,
3
okay.
weeks. And each week we had an activity to turn in or comment. And
they used Padlet as the tool that we posted and connected through. So just had a lot of different activities that we would do as pairs in that academy. Was it only 3 weeks? Wow, my concept of time very off.
this year has been long.
It has.
So I appreciate that you shared the students' perspectives on, I love hearing what the students come up with. It's always so enlightening. I would just love to hear your perspectives on the challenges and rewards of this process.
Go ahead, Mary.
Well, first of all, I think it's been a wonderful opportunity to get to know Amy. She has been an absolute superstar to work with. This project seemed really easy because it was really easy for us to be on the same page. Amy has lots of experience, so she was able to guide me, remind me of all the important parts, such as grading, and really being on the same page to make this project work. That was the most important part. The challenges were some of the students having to poke and prod some of them to work along. And Amy, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I was just answering E's question. I think the students only had a 1 hour time difference. Mary and I about 13 or 12, but that didn't, that was maybe the only challenge, is just making sure that we could find a time that would work. Usually the morning for me, usually the afternoon, evening for Mary. And I always felt quite bad because she's, 5 o'clock at night. And I'm sure she just wants to finish her day, and she was such a trooper and would stay up and work with me. The rewards are always so great. There are challenges, but the rewards far outweigh them. The growth I see in my students is so touching, and not touching, but it's just really nice to see that they're actually growing and learning from experience. And I teach intercultural communication. So for them to actually be practicing it and utilizing the things that we talk about in class to actually interact with someone in a way that's much more effective than if they hadn't learned those things is really, it makes me feel good about being a teacher. And every time I don't always do a COIL collaboration every semester, but when I do, I find the students are that much more, I don't want to say ahead of the other students, but they really have embodied what they've learned, because they've actually had to do it and experience it and live it. So I think that's the biggest reward for me. And then personally, professionally, I've been able to connect with people all over the world. I'm going to talk to a colleague. She's in Canada. She's from China. We're going to talk about doing a collaboration down the road. I've got people emailing me from Africa. I've got people all over the world. I was able to go to China to put together a collaboration with some people. I've just had really great opportunities. Belgium, lots of different places around the world. So I've just been very lucky professionally and personally to have expanded my network of people. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and talk about it.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? I just want to make sure that we capture that if you have them.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and staying.
Well, then we'll go ahead and I'll have Alex wrap us up.
Sure. I just want to thank you for your participation in the webinar today, and thanks to our guest speakers. It was lovely to meet you, Mary and Amy, and to hear all about your experiences and to have you share your expertise with us. The session recording and the slides are going to be uploaded to the bit.ly link that you see there, the SUNY NDLW 2020 link there. Please, if you would complete the survey, that helps us to continuously improve our efforts during events like National Distance Learning Week. There are additional sessions that are going to be happening throughout the week, and so we hope to see you there. The link there is posted for you to browse the other links that are that will be happening this week. So again, thank you very much to our speakers and to our participants. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again at this or some other virtual event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.